Brilliant. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back, students of the Social Impact series. I think we're on week 9 now. And for those that are just joining for the event, welcome as well. We've got a couple of startups from the Incubator with us today and a couple of colleagues as well, so welcome. So today we're going to be hearing from Maya. Maya is the head of product and learning for young change agents. But before we get into the event, I am just going to play our Welcome to Country video. Or not. Okay. You can practice a million times over.
Welcome. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of Macquarie University land, the Warramargal clan of the Darug Nation, whose cultures and customs have nurtured this land since the Dreamtime. We pay our respects to elders past, present and future. We welcome people of all nations and all faiths. Kwai Bidja, Jamna Payala Janawi. Come here, we speak together. We have 60,000 years of archaeological evidence of Aboriginal habitation at Lake Mungo and 20,000 years in Ryde. We have great antiquity. Today, hundreds of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people graduate from Macquarie University. The Darug Nation had famous leaders such as Chief Yarramundi, Naraginji, Colby and Maria Locke. Many of the descendants of these Darug people live today amongst you. We celebrate with you our ongoing attachment and custodianship of this country. We celebrate the achievements of Macquarie University.
Nicola, I think you're still on mute, but if you're happy, I can take it over from here.
All over to you, Sarah.
Thank you. I just feel so relaxed after that video every time. It's so peaceful. It's my pleasure to introduce you all today to Maya Marcus, who, as Nicola mentioned, is the head of product and learning at Young Change Agents. And has actually an amazing amount of experience in entrepreneurship, which I will just touch on very briefly for you. So she is a non-executive director at the Foundation for Young Australians. She is also a tutor in design thinking for social innovation and entrepreneurship at UTS. And she's an activator at an organisation called SheEO, which she will hopefully be able to tell you about in just a moment. So without further ado, I'll just hand over to you, Maya. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, just setting up my screen. Hi, everyone. It is very exciting to be here today and talk to all of you a little bit about my story, but mostly about the story of Young Change Agents, where I work. So as has been said, I'm Maya Marcus. I'm the head of product and learning at Young Change Agents, and today I'm on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. So I'm really excited to talk to you all about Young Change Agents, but before that, I'll jump into a bit of my journey, as Sarah has alluded to. So I discovered entrepreneurship quite accidentally. I was working in a university really focused on empowering young women through STEM. So I was running programs for both high school and university students. And then the university introduced a STEM and entrepreneurship program for women and asked me to run that. And so when I started to run that program, I was working with young people and seeing how their experience with entrepreneurship was really empowering them and changing their motivations and their aspirations and actually having an impact on their pathway and their journey through life. And I fell in love with entrepreneurship education and that impact that it could really have on young people. So I moved to this role focused on entrepreneurship education and I absolutely loved it. But I quickly decided that I wanted to be fully immersed in entrepreneurship as much as possible myself and actually be living and breathing the methodologies that I was teaching young people. So that's when I started to reach out to different communities and different networks and get engaged. So I started tutoring entrepreneurship and design thinking subjects at UTS, where I was finishing my master's. And I also started to get more involved in running startup weekends. And as part of that, I started running startup weekends and then connecting across the world with other people running startup weekends and tapping into these awesome organizations and people across the world. I also joined the board of the Foundation for Young Australians, which is one of the biggest organisations focused on supporting and empowering young people in Australia. And for me, this was such a powerful experience to understand how organisations govern themselves, how they develop their strategy and their vision, and how an organisation can really focus on not just giving young people tools, but empowering them. So as Sarah said, I also joined the CEO community as an activator. So I donate a certain amount of money each year, which goes into an ongoing pool to support female entrepreneurs in Australia and get through loans. And then they pay back that loan after 5 years and the money goes to another enterprise, which is a really powerful methodology. But it also allows me to connect in with these female ventures and with other females that are supporting ventures like this. And through all of this, I started to realize that, entrepreneurship was definitely the space I wanted to be. Entrepreneurship education was what I really wanted to be doing. So I started to look for somewhere where I could be entrepreneurial and have impact through entrepreneurship education, but was also an entrepreneurial venture in itself. And that's when I moved to Young Change Agents. So Young Change Agents is an edtech startup that is really growing and changing and innovating. We practice what we preach. We use design thinking to develop our programs that are teaching design thinking. And so I get to spend every day working on things that will really empower young people across Australia, which is really powerful for me and really important. But for you to really understand Young Change Agents and what we do, I wanted to share some of the story of how we came to where we are today. So our founder, Margaret was in Colombia working at a charity running programs with young people in the communities there. And these were literacy and numeracy programs. Some of them were about starting local libraries. And soon she could tell that while these programs were having a great impact, young people needed a bit more. Once they have that core foundation of literacy and numeracy, once they have food and shelter, they want to be empowered to really take control of their pathways and take their next steps through life. So Margaret started to include social business as a theme in the workshops that she was running with young people. And she talked to them about problems they were finding in their community and helped them develop a business idea to solve some of these problems. And she was really impressed with the ideas young people were coming up with, but very much like me, when I first started doing entrepreneurial education, she was just really impressed by the way it had an impact on the mindset of young people and the way it changed how they were thinking about their lives and their next steps. So there was one young woman that Margaret worked with called Jennifer, who was 15. And after some of the workshops, she came up to Margaret and said, I used to think, why don't people help us? And now I think we can help ourselves. And that concept was a fundamental driver for the work we do at Young Change Agents. It's all about empowering young people to lead and create change, to solve problems and to have their perspectives heard. So when Margaret came back to Australia, she knew she wanted to have this same impact on young people here. So obviously the problems for Australia and for young people living here are very different to those of young people living in Colombia. And as I'm sure you know, when you're doing entrepreneurial things or starting a business, you can't just copy and paste things from one context to another. You have to really appreciate the context and the challenges of your customers and really get to know what they're going through. So in Australia, the challenge we're facing is that we know innovation and entrepreneurship are vital for a thriving and prosperous economy and society. We also know that 63% of all jobs will require enterprise skills by 2030, and that young people with enterprise skills are finding relevant employment 17 months ahead of their peers. So these skills that young people are learning in our programs, in other programs across the country are so vital, but Australia actually isn't doing very well at an international stage in regards to entrepreneurial education. So we're currently rated 3.7 out of 10, where 0 is highly inadequate. So there's obviously a lot of space for more work in this area. We really need to, and this is something as a country we need to work on. And so that's where Young Change Agents comes in. So we're a not-for-profit social enterprise. We work with young people aged 10 to 21, focused on developing their mindset, skill set, and tool set in an entrepreneurial context. So we do this through social entrepreneurship programs and a whole range of initiatives that I'll talk to you about shortly. And we do this because we want to equip young people for their future careers and to build their own pathways and create their own jobs. So we're a nationwide organisation with staff across Australia. We moved into our final state of WA a few months ago. And this year we will reach over 4,000 young people through entrepreneurial education. And so we have 4 strategic pillars that guide the work we do. And these are lifelong learning, capacity building, ecosystem development, and amplification. But I want to tell you how we kind of got to this point. So programs were where we really started. Our first program was for Maryland's East Public School in Sydney, and that was about focusing on exploring problems in their local community, similar to what we did in Colombia, and coming up with solutions. And then we started running them with other community groups and schools across Sydney. But we soon realised that this wasn't the most sustainable approach. If we wanted to reach young people across Australia, we couldn't do that on our own. So we added in an educator capacity building layer. So we developed a model that allowed us to deliver those same programs to students, but have teachers participating and immersed in those programs at the same time, so that then teachers could build up their own capacity and be champions and deliver entrepreneurship education in their communities. And as that started to work really well and teachers were really blossoming and teaching in their schools, they wanted to participate more in their community and bring the community into the school and bring the school more connected with the community. So we added in this ecosystem development layer. That was really about connecting industry, connecting local entrepreneurs, whether we're running a program in Sydney or in Mount Gambier or in the Pilbara region of WA, looking at who are the people in the local community that we can connect in, so that when we leave that community, there's strong connections and strong capacity that we're leaving behind. And then we still found that there was more of an impact that we could have, and we weren't going to be able to achieve our mission of all young people from 10 and up achieving entrepreneurial education purely through these programs. So we started working on developing platforms that would help amplify our impact and amplify the voices of young people. And we now have an app, a website, and an e-learning platform, and a few other initiatives that help achieve our vision. So to put it on a little bit of a timeline, you can see that we started piloting in 2016. At the beginning of the year. By the end of the year, we got a significant government grant that let us evolve our programs and deliver more programs. We started getting our first layer of investment from venture capital in 2017. And then we started gradually expanding our impact to other areas of Australia. And so that kind of captures how we've been developing. So our programs have now evolved from one-off programs to a whole learning journey for young people and educators that really focus on equipping youth with an entrepreneurial mindset, skill set, and tool set. And these range from teaching design thinking in schools to youth incubators to programs that launch a functioning social enterprise within a school that is both youth designed and youth led. We also run virtual challenges open to all young people across the country. So all of our programs are really based on our learning approach. So they should be co-designed, they need to be playful, they need to be experiential and real world. And this learning approach is something that we've developed and updated as we go throughout the years, but it really keeps us grounded in everything new we're developing, or if we get a new proposal or a new project, we come back to this learning approach and make sure it can be developed with that approach. Otherwise, it's not something we should be delivering. So I want to talk about a bit of a case study. So as I said, Maryland's East were one of the first schools that we worked with. And so when we came to them, we really started speaking to their teachers and talking to them and seeing what was happening in their school. We found out that they wanted to improve their financial literacy whilst also building entrepreneurial capability. And we ran a few design thinking programs with them, but that still wasn't getting people to the point where they could see how an idea could actually turn into a business or a product or a service. So we found that the teachers didn't really have the confidence or knowledge or capacity to deliver entrepreneurial education at that time, and that students couldn't get that full journey from problem exploration to actually running a business in their schools. So we thought, how could we provide an entrepreneurial and financial learning experience within their school? So we partnered with them to run a social enterprise in their school. So I've got a little bit of a video on that, which I will play.
Young Change Agents and Good 360 have partnered to create the first retail social enterprise in a school in Australia, and it teaches kids about entrepreneurship, financial literacy, retail soft skills and sustainability.
But this store here at Maryland gives the students an opportunity to have authentic learning where we can bring their ideas to reality.
There's two types of products in the store. Firstly, there's the products that come from Good 360, which is a social enterprise that works with brands who have all these excess stock and donate that stock so that other people can access those goods. And secondly, the kids also make their own products through the Young Change Agents program. So they also get their own bank accounts. So they're starting to learn about how to save and spend, but also how to give some of their money as well, so they can learn those key skills while they're at school.
Like, I could give it to my other friends, I could give it to relatives, I could save it up for something that I would really like.
They can earn money in three ways. They can earn money by creating their own products and selling them at wholesale to the shop, and then the shop sells them out at retail using the digital currency. The second way is they can volunteer in the shop, practice those retail skills. And the third way is they can be rewarded for great behaviour. In this case at Maryland's, that's based on the 6 school values.
Through the program, our students go through a process of design thinking where they come up with a concept idea. They might test out the concept idea, prototype it, and then also develop the products through a range of strategies.
So when I went home, I interviewed my friends online and found out their favourite colours and patterns, and then I got so inspired after school to make my own accessories and then sell them into the shop. So these were my first products. They are bracelets.
So during this program, I was learning about financial literacy and the ways that I could manage my money, and I was also learning about stock and marketing. Like, for example, whenever you want to sell a product, you would try and find what is trending.
How did you feel when you found that at the shop?
I felt really excited. I felt like it was an amazing opportunity, and there were so many things that we could do. That was a fun way to, exercise my muscles, my creative muscles.
So that's just one of the programs that we've been running that really helps us actually give students real life experience of entrepreneurship. And it's an incredible program that I think kind of shows what we do. So it brings in local entrepreneurs and local businesses that come together. It has that technology supporting the financial learning. And it's been a great journey with that school, and that social enterprise is still running in that school at that moment. And we come in only once a year if needed to kind of refresh students and onboard new students into the program, and the teachers run everything else with their students managing the store. So our next pillar is the capacity building. So as I said, capacity building is really at the heart of what we do to have a sustainable impact. So we have a train the trainer model with 4 stages. So teachers go from being immersed in our program to our e-learning, to facilitating a program, to becoming a champion. And we now have champions across the country delivering our content in their own classrooms and making it work for their students in the curriculum. And this model for us was really co-designed with teachers. At first, we just tried immersing them in programs and they wanted more, so we provided the e-learning. And then we found that even when teachers had actually immersed in a program and had that e-learning, not all of them then had the confidence to go and teach entrepreneurial education. So we now offer that entrepreneurial co-facilitation level as an extra level for those teachers so they can really be champions in their community. So we then have our ecosystem development. So these are just some quotes from perspectives of different parts of the ecosystem that we work with and we aim to bring together. It's really important to, I think, keep refreshed on this for us and really touch base with all the different people that contribute to our programs. And we've worked with all different levels of people and conducted co-designs and ecosystem development workshops with them, so that when we go to a community, we play a really important role in bringing stakeholders together to empower young people. And now our technology, which is really one of our key differentiators. So we have proprietary technology that lets us amplify the voices of young people on our website and share their many fantastic ideas with the world. We also have platforms like the one you saw in that video where they can manage their finances. And then we also have our Entrepreneurial Hub. which provides badges and an e-portfolio to young people so they can capture the work they've completed and really understand that they're developing that important entrepreneurial mindset, skill set and tool set. And they can share that with employers. And the app also provides ongoing learning opportunities. So this allows us to really have an ongoing impact with the young people that we work with. So to give you a kind of concept of the user journeys of the people that we work with the most, obviously young people and educators. So a young person, for example, could be Anna. So people like Anna often tell us that they have really cool ideas, but they don't have the confidence to do anything with them. They don't know how to actually create impact. So we see entrepreneurship education as a vehicle for them to create change. So her school might run a Young Change Agents program and Anna can attend and really begin her entrepreneurial journey. So she can work in a team and develop a social enterprise in relation to a problem in her community. And we find that that boosts her confidence and her entrepreneurial self-efficacy. And she really feels like she has skills that she can be used in the real world. She then could come to another program of ours, like a youth incubator, where she gets mentorship and master classes and brings her idea to life. We could help her crowdfund her idea and develop that really strong business model. She can then use that entrepreneurial learning hub for as long as she wants. It can keep a record of all her work and she can see her progression through badges. And she can also access ongoing learning. For our teachers, an example is Jasmine, who might want to empower her students through entrepreneurial education, but she's not really sure how to do that. So she could run one of our programs. In that program, she would participate in a team of teachers alongside the students. So every time the students have to get up and pitch a problem or share their idea or present their business model, the teachers have to do exactly the same thing. So they actually truly get that empathy for the student experience, which better equips them to then deliver the programs. Those teachers then do our online learning, they can co-facilitate a program, and then they have ongoing access to our resources to deliver that program in their classroom however they like and however works for them. And they can use our technology to make that even easier for themselves. So a bit of an example of this is Mount Gambier High School. So we ran 2 programs with them this year, and we found that they had been given funding by their state government to run entrepreneurial programs, but they didn't quite have that capacity to do that yet. So we went and ran our first program with them, and they invited 2 schools from the local community. So there were 5 teachers there and 40 students, and the teachers participated alongside the students. And then a few weeks later, I went back, and the teachers led 90% of the content. And I was just there to support them, to give them tips on their facilitation, to provide the entrepreneurial context. And then since then, teachers from all 3 schools have now run programs in all different ways using our content and our resources, which is really incredible impact. That, you know, we don't have to go back to Mount Gambier now unless we wanted to do a second program, but they can keep going and delivering that however is going to work for their context. So now that you know what we do and a bit more about why we do it, I want to talk a little bit about our impact that we've had so far. So we started in 2016, and now in 2020, we have reached over 6,500 students through real-world practical entrepreneurial education. So we measure our impact through the badges that young people earn, as we really have a focus on the depth of learning and ensuring that young people we work with have had a deep and authentic learning experience. So in the last 4 years, students have earned over 80,000 badges. So for example, all students in our program received the problem definition badge, and that means they have all had the ability to identify problems, to explore these and define them in a way that they can then develop solutions. And this is obviously a critical skill for young people, whether or not they go down an entrepreneurial pathway. So when we think about a badge at Young Change Agents, we think about the mindset, skill set and tool set. So if someone has an empathy badge, that means they have the mindset to be empathetic, they have the skills to conduct empathy work and empathy interviews, and they have the tools that they need for that. So in 2020, we're on track to empower thousands more young people and equip them with this entrepreneurial mindset, skill set, and tool set. And so we're able to do that through our partnerships and our investment that allow us to grow. So one of the key ways that we're able to grow and have this impact is through working with partners. So some of our key partnerships and programs include the Academy for Enterprising Girls. So that's a federal government funded program that allows us to empower thousands of young women each year. So we spent a few months co-designing that with young women and educators across the country, and now we're one of the major delivery partners in every state and territory. We also work with key connectors and facilitators that can help us ensure our programs reach many schools and effectively tie into what they're already doing. So this includes groups like the Department of Education in every state and territory. And our latest growth strategy is through licensing deals. So we're currently developing a partnership with CodeCamp, where they will deliver our content in after-school care and vacation programs across Australia. So we'll train their staff, and then they'll be able to empower thousands of young people. And for us, this is a really good partnership because we've got the technology and content, and they've got the logistical experience and the framework, and they've got young people that want to go to their programs in the holidays and after-school care. And that's a much more powerful partnership and growth strategy for us than us trying to set up our own totally new programs running in those kind of times. So we're looking into license deals like this with other organisations as well to really allow us to build our impact across Australia. So we want to work with organisations that have a strength. So Code Camps is really that vacations program and after school care programs, so that we can reach thousands of young people. And this is really just the next step of our capacity building. Instead of just building the capacity of educators, we can build the capacity of community members, of charities, religious leaders, and diverse youth who can then empower their peers and young people they're working with. So I know a bit of a focus this week is investment. And so we've had investment from a few different partners that have really allowed us to be able to do what we do. So we work with a lot of universities, we get pro bono support, and we also have industry partners and clients. So one of our core industry partners is Telstra Foundation. So they invest now a set amount of money into our organisation every year, which really allows us to reach young people in regional and rural communities across the country. So their investment has really allowed us to expand our impact and bring on staff in key locations across Australia. And this, excuse me, this for us is a vital partnership, like the strong ongoing partnerships that can grow and develop as we grow and develop, are really powerful for us. We've also had investment from Atlassian that has allowed us to really expand our capacity building resources. So they've given us funding to expand our e-learning platform. And now we're going to work with them on our careers curriculum that will better link our programs to the careers journey of young people. Another major investor we've had was 7th Street Ventures. So their investment allowed us to build out our proprietary technology, which is obviously a core pillar of our approach. And then we also get pro bono support, which is, I guess, in-kind investment into our organisation. So this includes things like legal support, mentoring, and support to set up and run a customer relationship management system through Salesforce. So our current business model, we have 3 key areas of revenue. So school fee for service is where a school pays us to deliver one or more programs in their school. They could also pay to license some of our online content and access our e-learning program. Our large program fee for service is where a government or corporate department may pay us to deliver programs across several schools. So the Academy for Enterprising Girls program is an example of that. And in 2020, their funding will allow us to reach 3,000 young women. So that's really powerful. And then, as I mentioned, the third aspect is really the partnership licensing models, which at the moment we're exploring in Australia and overseas. So we've had a few trade missions to India. And so now we're looking at how can we virtually launch to India while we can't travel there at the moment. And so that's really exciting as well. So with this business model and significant impact investment, we really are anticipating we could grow significantly. At the moment, we're looking to take on significant impact investment at the end of 2021. So our goal is that could help us reach 1.5 million young people and 30,000 educators by 2024. And so we anticipate that a certain percentage of that would be programs that we deliver, but we aren't really wanting to scale up our service delivery. We want to scale up service delivery by empowering licensed partners to deliver programs across Australia and internationally. and also having more and more teacher champions that are going through our 4-step Train the Trainer program and delivering the programs themselves and empowering other teachers around them. So obviously an important part of being able to do this is our team. So we have an incredible team. These are just some of them across Australia that allow us to do this work. And so we are an all virtual team at the moment. We had an office in Sydney, but we've all moved virtually and all working from home, which has actually been really powerful for us. Because before we had some of our team working from an office in Sydney and some working from home. And now we're all at an equal level. We're all able to work from home and we're all equally able to contribute to all parts of the business. And that's been really powerful for us. So we've got this team. So each team member kind of leads their regional area in their state. So we have Lisa, who leads everything in WA, and she's a successful social entrepreneur herself. We have Sam, who leads our kind of northern New South Wales and Queensland, and he's the ex-CEO of Batia. So obviously has some incredible entrepreneurial experience. So we have these people working in different locations across Australia. And then we also have a 3-person executive team. So our CEO, myself, and Aruna, who's our head of development and international. And then we support everything we do across the country in our partnerships and growth. And so with our team, one of the things we're currently trying to allow ourselves to do is to really have time to work on that partnership and that growth, and shifting our focus from getting funding that allows us to deliver programs to funding that actually allows us to work on the business rather than in the business. And that's been a really powerful shift for us. And that's part of the reason we're moving away from grants and into actual impact investment. So our team is supported by an incredible board. So we have a fantastic chair and a group of directors that do a lot of support for us and strategic work. And we also have an outsourced tech team led by Ben, who works out of Fishburners in Sydney. And they've worked with us to develop all of our proprietary technology, which has been really incredible. And as any entrepreneurs can understand, building your own tech team is an incredibly expensive investment. And so having an essentially outsourced CTO and group of engineers has been absolutely pivotal for us to develop the technology that we rely on. And then I guess one of the other things I wanted to share is that as well as having our team and our business model and our resources and our tech, something that's really important for us is the teachers and the ecosystem that we work with. And we find that we really need to make sure that at all times we're checking in with that ecosystem, connecting with them and understanding that perspective. And that's where some of the practicing what we preach applies. We conduct empathy work with the ecosystem the same way we get students to do that in our programs. We iterate and adapt based on our feedback. We validate our new programs and test and pilot them before we launch anything. So these are some quotes from some of the ecosystem that we work with. So, from schools, it's really about students feeling capable and developing their skills. For teachers, it's about providing them with a framework and capability. So the Department of Education, for us, it's about showing our reputation and building our reputation with them and working with them to figure out the best way to empower schools in their region. For industry partners, it's really about building a strong relationship with them. And then for local entrepreneurs, we really rely on them for mentorship, for coaching of our students, and for ongoing support. And so Murray is one of our biggest advocates, which we're very lucky to have. And so we have people like that also inform everything we do. And when we develop new resources, for example, our careers curriculum, we really rely on corporates to come and provide that careers knowledge and be role models for our programs. So we believe that if we grow our business in the 3 areas that I've identified and really continue to work closely with the ecosystem and build our strong team, that we'll be able to expand our impact and be strongly positioned to achieve our vision of ensuring that all youth across Australia and ultimately the world have access to social entrepreneurial education from age 10. We know that every young person has had a unique life experience, and that reflects in the diversity of the problems that the young people are aiming to solve. So we work with youth who live on farms, who face the drought. We work with young people with disability who are seeking independence and freedom. And we work with young Indigenous Australians and young women that are struggling to get into STEM industries and entrepreneurship. And all of these youth are working on really important problems. And we really think that together, if empowered, they can make a change on our world. And so we're here to give them the entrepreneurial mindset, skill set, and tool set that they need to make that change. So we are Young Change Agents, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I'm not sure about the rest of you, but I'm feeling incredibly inspired after that.
I'm glad.
We'll just jump to the Q&A box real quick. A couple of comments, first of all, saying how wonderful this program is and amazing to see the fantastic impact that you're making. So well done, Maya and the team. I think it's absolutely amazing, the work that you're doing. We have a question here from Jessica. What are the different ways that we can get involved with SheEO?
That's a great question. So SheEO is an incredible organisation, and you can go onto their website and become an activator at any time. And they ask for a donation of $1,100, and $1,000 goes directly into supporting activators, and $100 goes towards admin costs and the SheEO team. And you can either pay that up front or do it as a monthly contribution, which is a lot more reasonable for some people. And then they also have the option to join with others to invest. So you could have 10 people that each put in $110 or contribute in some way, and then together you can be involved. And once you've made that contribution, at the moment they're weekly calls, you can join with other activators. You can support the ventures that are funded, but you can also ask for help yourself. You know, we work with SheEO to get speakers for our programs and for things like that. And if you're a man, you can't activate, but you can pay for the activation of a woman in your life.
That's good to know. Thank you. I might just pop the link to SheEO into the chat box if anyone wants to check it out and have a look.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get back to the chat box for you. Okay, we have a question here from Edmund. Edmund is actually a startup within our incubator. Hi, Ed. What was your approach with VCs? Was it based on social impact, or were there also some financial reward for them?
Yeah, so as a social enterprise and not-for-profit, we can't provide equity or anything like that to VCs. So it's all about the social impact, which can be restraining in a way if you want to take on equity investment. But it really means that everyone that supports us is really doing it for the right reasons as well, and they want to see our impact grow, and they appreciate the business model and the approach that we're taking. So impact investment and social impact are really the focus.
Maya, can I just jump in here, if I may? So the students this week will be learning a little bit more about impact investment and understanding those differences and what they can be asking for with their ideas. But I noticed that you mentioned that you are looking at taking on sort of serious impact investment at the end of 2021. So can you just expand a little bit more on that for us, to explain like the situation that you're in now and what you have to do over the next year to get to that point, and what that means?
Yeah, so part of the timeline is that we want to make sure we have partners and investors that have the same values as us and really want to invest in us, and they really understand the impact that we're trying to create. So one of the things we've been doing as part of the Scale and Impact Accelerator is just trying to talk to lots of impact investors that may or may not invest in us, but just start to figure out what are impact investors going to look at from us? You know, what are they going to want to see? What do we have to have prepared? And how do we best frame our pitch for different impact investors to get them interested in what we're doing? You know, for some people, we might have to frame it around the education piece. For other people, they're more passionate about getting young people into jobs. So at the moment, we're really doing that kind of empathy work with impact investors and getting to know them and making sure that we can start building those relationships. And if we start building those relationships now and really getting on the same page, you know, for us, we'd really love them to come along and be a judge in one of our programs and actually see the outcomes for young people and really immerse them in our programs so that when they do make that investment, they're going to be an ongoing investor and really believe in what we're doing and be really happy with the outcome. So I think it's just that journey. And then we're really getting our tech at the moment to a point of moving from MVP to implementation. So, our app was tested a few weeks ago again, and we're now doing the final iterations on that before we do a massive rollout. And so for us, it's really important that we know exactly what we want to achieve and we have the tools to do that, and that we're ready to grow. We've been in a stage of going from, which a lot of startups go from, of having a few people where all the strategy and the planning is in your head, to having to document processes and be ready to grow. And the worst thing to do would be to get investment and to grow really quickly and to not do it in an authentic way, to not have our staff trained up in the same content and the same principles that we are. So we're really building on our technology and our internal communication and processes as well before we take on investment.
Great, thank you.
We now have another question here from Felipe. Can companies sponsor young people to participate in the program? For example, company X contributes to the upskilling of 100 people in the local community.
Yeah, so I guess we don't have it explicitly written by like that, but that is quite what we do. So for example, with Atlassian, they paid for us to run, at one point, part of the funding was for us to run a youth incubator for 25 people in Sydney. And that was really powerful. They also give us other funding for other things, but if a company could only do that, that could be the start of a relationship that we continue to grow. One of the ways we start working with companies is through like a co-design or something like that. So we may have a company come to us and say, we want to build something and we want young people's perspective. So we could use our content framework to run a design thinking program all about that challenge that that company could be facing, and to build up that young people's knowledge on that topic. So in Queensland at the moment, we've got funding from Queensland Health to run a challenge around cyberbullying. And that could be the start of that relationship. We can understand how young people think about cyberbullying, the problems and solutions they care about. And then we can build that relationship with that department further. And I think there was a question from you, Sarah, in the chat.
There was a question from me that was in relation to after school care and during the curriculum, but you actually answered that about 5 minutes later. But I was just interested in it because having, had a stepdaughter doing after school care and thinking, oh, this would be the perfect thing because they're always looking for activities for the kids. That would be the perfect thing. But you did answer that. But feel free to add any more. But I do have another question, which is sort of, I guess, related in a way. But you mentioned that the students go through, they do the entrepreneurial, like the first part, and then you might go into the school again a year later and check in and onboard new students and stuff like that. But if I think about my own personal experience when I was a kid and doing my entrepreneurial things and stuff, and obviously not having any help from an organization like Young Change Agents, but just sort of doing it on my own, I would have loved to have had like stages, I guess. And you've talked about badges, but like I sort of would just make something like those girls with those bracelets and try and sell them. But that was kind of the end of it after that, because I did it, I made some money, and then it was like, okay, and now I'm done. I don't really know where to take this next. So do you take them through levels of understanding?
Yeah, so we don't have prescribed levels, because for different schools and contexts and students, what their next level might be could be quite different. So for example, in one community, we could run our initial design thinking challenges, and they come up with problems, and then they want to go through our youth incubator and develop their solutions further. And then some students would then start crowdfunding campaigns. So I think on my first day at Young Change Agents, I was in our office that was in Telstra at the time, sitting next to a student that was packing her prototypes that she'd made through one of our programs, and then putting them in envelopes and posting them off. And so that was really incredible. You know, they'd actually done that crowdfunding. She then went and ran a launch event in Sydney and now is selling them online. So her next step was to keep going with her business. For other students, their next step could be to enter another one of our online challenges and explore a different idea because they like the program, but it might not be the right idea for them. For other students, it could be to do one of our more industry-focused programs or to do a vacation care program. And then this is also why we partner with the ecosystem. So for example, if we were running programs in Macquarie University, we'd try and get Macquarie University involved in those programs. They may come and talk to students about, you know, some of the programs they could do at the university if they keep going with their learning journey. So we hosted some programs at Macquarie University a few years ago and did exactly that. You know, we can have students come and talk about, you know, once you've done these Young Change Agents programs, here are your next steps. In other communities, like in the Pilbara region, we would partner with corporates that are working there or other organisations that are running other programs and really map out for students, okay, you've done this program, you could do one of our programs next, you could do this other program. It's really going to be about your learning journey. And then on our app, we also have various videos. So they could earn up to another 9 or 10 badges just through doing activities and videos on the application itself.
Right. Great. Thank you.
All right.
We just have another question here from Ryan.
Yeah.
Was your initial start funded by grants? Was getting grant funding difficult? If so, how much did you work around it?
Yeah, so I think on our timeline, December 2017 was our first major grant. Before that, we might work with local grants in local areas, and grant writing is luckily a big skill of mine and of our CEOs, so that was helpful. But for us, it was also about having that idea that the mindset, skill set, tool set was what we were going to measure. So when we're applying for grants, we could talk about comprehensively, not just that we're going to reach 100 students, but this is how we're going to reach them and these are what the outcomes are going to be. And once we could add that into grants, we found it really helpful. And then we also, it's been easier to get grants once we have that ecosystem development layer. Because if we're applying for a grant in a region, you know, we're not just applying for us to do a program and then leave. We've got a university that's supporting us. We've got a corporate that's supporting us. We've got local mentors that are then going to continue to have impact beyond the reach of that grant. And so having all of those layers and those 4 strategic pillars come together and really put them into a grant application has made, in my opinion, at least our grant applications relatively strong. And that's been possible because of our team and our connections. But grant applications, as anyone would know, they take a long time. You can take months to hear back and they're not sustainable funding. So one of the things that we really do is when we get a grant, we try and leverage that impact as much as possible. So for example, if we get a grant for a new community, like in Mount Gambier, the first grant we got was Telstra funding, and we could use that anywhere in South Australia. But we also had funding for Mount Gambier through the Academy for Enterprising Girls. So the first time we went, we used the Telstra funding. The second time we went, we used the Academy for Enterprising Girls funding. And now collectively with the schools in that area, we've applied for additional funding. In other areas, the first program might be run, so up in Logan in Queensland, we ran some Telstra Foundation funded programs around there. And now the council has given us a significant grant to keep working with the schools in that area. So we really try and use the grant, not just to deliver on the grant, but to then figure out who can we connect with and engage in these programs that are being funded now that may be able to provide funding for the next step.
Very interesting, thank you. I wish I had the skills to do grant writing, but no, definitely not a skill of mine.
Very helpful with that.
Might have to call you. Any other questions? Nothing in the chat box at the moment. Anyone want to come off mute and ask a question? No, we're all good. Okay, we might wrap up a bit earlier then if that's okay. Thank you again for such an inspiring presentation. It's great to see the amazing work that you're doing at Young Change Agents, and the impact that you're making. I think is absolutely incredible and most definitely inspiring.
Thank you, and thank you all for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions via LinkedIn or anything like that if they do come up.
Thank you, Maya. That was a really, really inspiring, and I am definitely going to go and check out all your website and see a bit more about what you're doing, because it's super inspiring. So thank you very much.
Thank you.